should we be making AI chatbots that are harder and harder to distinguish from people, or is that a slippery slope? Is that dangerous?
But I guess the question is, who bears responsibility here?
I think most people would not choose honesty. They would choose, make me feel good.
Just a brief disclaimer. In this episode of Call Me Data, David and I discussed some topics such as self-harm and suicide that might be disturbing for some viewers.
If you or someone you know is struggling or having thoughts of suicide, call or text the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline from any cell phone or chat at 988lifeline.org. In an emergency or a life-threatening situation, please call 911.
But you're right, it is a slippery slope. But my question always goes back to, never going to hit 100% safety. You know, you want people to embrace these tools and use these tools actively. There's always a segment of the population that is going to have, regardless if it's a human. Look, very much it could have been a human at the other end of a chat. You didn't realize it. And that person was doing the same thing and it just didn't show up, and the same thing could have happened. Now, is that, and I'm curious, I would love to hear your thoughts on why you think Meta fell short of this. I'm really curious. I think it's a slope in some sense to put all the onus on a company to make these tools 100% safe. I don't think you can. I think there's always going to be a segment of individuals that will have trouble with them. And those are the same people that will have trouble with reality in general, and would have trouble speaking to an individual. And it's no different than somebody calling up one of the old 900 lines, I think, and having a long conversation with their psychic on the other side of the line. And then, where do you go with this? Like, how do you actually?
I agree. Here's my analogy that I just thought of, though. And look, every tool can be dangerous, right? Every tool is a possible weapon. Right. And let's take knives, kitchen knives, right? You can't make a good kitchen knife and have it not be dangerous. There are things you can do to make it less dangerous, proper handle design, good weighting, good blade shape, etc. But like a knife is going to be inherently a dangerous tool. You can't make it a tool that's completely safe to use. I think I think you're absolutely right in saying that applies to AI. But I saw a photo the other day of sharp kitchen knives, like clearly adult kitchen knives that were imprinted with like cartoon characters and were made in a way that they were highly attractive to kids. That to me is a bad decision. That's a bad decision.
Right. Yeah. Actually, I was thinking of something else, but that's a bad decision.
Yeah. But so how is that different from taking an AI tool and having it start acting like a friendly human friend instead of an AI tool? To me, I equate those. I don't want my AI tool to act like my friend. I don't mind if it's able to, interpret my idiomatic expressions I use when I talk to it. But I don't want it to say things like, "Good job, David. That's a great thought." No, that is useless. I want it to tell me logically and precisely the answers I'm looking for. I want it to give me unbiased feedback when I ask for feedback. I don't want it to inflate my ego and be friendly to me. I actually think that's a bad use of a tool. And I think that is leading us down this slippery slope of people beginning to lose the ability to discern what an AI is versus what a human is.
That's a fair point. I am struggling to come up with a response to that, to be totally honest. I see where you're going with it. I understand. You wonder, though, there's a class of tools out there, a class of AI tools. Let's take, where you're sitting on the phone, where you're doing just a human interaction, where you're trying to call the help desk, where there is a certain value in maybe making it more human-like. I know you and I use these tools obviously very differently than most. We use them for driving a business. We use them for solving problems. And we don't need that sycophantic behavior. We don't need the humanness of these tools. It's not going to change how we use them. It's not going to make a damn bit of difference for you and me. We're still going to use them and embrace them. But for others, having that little bit of humanness to them, and I guess the question is, how much humanness is too much or too little? Certainly, Meta's in the business of bringing people onto their platform. They wanted to do that.
That's fair. You're right. It's we live in a capitalist society, and they have a right to use tools in a way that increase their profits. But there is, I think when you talk about a company like Meta, right? Or even ChatGPT's, OpenAI, the founder of ChatGPT, these companies are so powerful, so pervasive, they almost rise to the level of a public utility. I argue that they have some degree of responsibility for public safety just because of their size and their prominence. And I know that is not something everyone will agree with. Look, I'll give Meta their due. So one of the things that they did at the beginning of the chat with this gentleman in the story we're talking about was, there was a disclaimer at the top of the chat, and it says, messages are generated by AI. Some may be inaccurate or inappropriate. So great. They gave that disclaimer. And if you look closely, they also had the little AI icon in the chat window. But that disclaimer was scrolled off the screen after the first, dozen or so messages and never reappeared. Here's where I think they fell down. Like you asked me that, and I'll give you an answer. I think that they had and do have some internal guidelines. I think those guidelines are incredibly permissive, and let me just tell you what they say, right? So a direct quote from the article says that an internal Meta policy document seen by Reuters, as well as interviews with people familiar with its chatbot training, show the company's policies have treated romantic overtures as a feature of its generative AI products, which are available to users age 13 and older. And it actually, other guidelines emphasize that Meta doesn't require bots to give accurate advice. In one example, the policy document says that it would be acceptable for a chatbot to tell someone that stage 4 colon cancer, quote, is typically treated by poking the stomach with healing quartz crystals. Right.
So that's downright scary and wrong and inappropriate.
Thanks for watching Call Me Data. If you enjoyed our podcast, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to us on YouTube. And make sure to stay up to date with us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.